Hello everybody, welcome back nice and early, Monday morning, still in the red, momentum still pushing down. It's unfortunate, but it's true, so there's nothing we can do about it, other than wait for the next area of major support, which for Bitcoin is only a little nudge down to that 21 exponential, which is where I'll be looking for the next buy the dip across the board for altcoins generally to get that dollar cost average next event to take place. It's only another 1.5% from where we're at right now, but since the weekly sort of shifted down, sort of had a bit of a hiccup before the weekly close, did close below that Bollinger Band Center. So at this point now, unless this holds, maybe momentum will continue to push this down further and further and further. So it's not all over, but it's definitely wanting to go down at least another 1.5%, which should offer at least a decent bounce. We've got the decent bounce around it on this time over here. And we're just going to backtest it ever so slightly to show what it looks like for a 20 moving average to get lost. So, bear market began, 20 moving average got lost, down, 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 down. That is a bear market. This is a bull market over here. So what happens over here when you lose it? So nice big run up for Bitcoin. We lost it. The 50 exponential held it, but it turns to resistance. Now, this resistance is when we start facing down. At the moment, the 20 weekly is massively up. It's facing up. So even though it is resistance, the resistance is actually going to keep going higher, probably for another month or so, before it turns down and we actually use it as an official resistance in the form of a downtrend. So it has been lost, but all is not lost. The 21 exponential should hold us, but it may not. Normally, for major moves up or down, you look for some kind of bullish divergence on the money flow index to spot lows. You know, this one here, bullish divergence spots the low. This one here, bullish divergence spots the low. Highs, this one here, bearish divergence spots the high. I'll just wind it back in a bit. Spots the high. You know, more or less. This one here to here spots the low, and this one here to here spots the high. So really what you should be looking for would be some kind of bullish divergence if you're going to get it at all. And at the moment, we're far away from that on the money flow index. So, is it just a little baby step that can ricochet from here? Or is it going to go much deeper to provide us with some bullish divergence? I don't know. We can hope that this is just a retest of this 21 exponential. But since we have now lost that 20 moving average, be a little scared in a way, but not too afraid to continue with the dollar cost averaging. Moving over to the total 2, so excluding Bitcoin, whole market cap, still not approached that major support, which is the 200 exponential, and the simple, which is just a little bit further down from where we're at right now. Just measure this out. That is another 2.5%, so that makes sense. You see Bitcoin come down 1.5, should see this come down 2.5, completely reasonable. Absolutely perfectly acceptable to see that and probably even expect that. And if we lose this area, then it's not a massive problem, but as far as moving averages and momentum is concerned, we would have lost a major area on the daily. Bitcoin's far away from its own 200 exponential, I should mention. Yeah, that sits down here just around $58,000. So again, reasonable area to expect a bounce as well. So all is not lost on Bitcoin's chart. 21 simple moving average on the weekly is one thing. 200 exponential on the daily is another thing. They're both relatively good areas to assume at least a massive bounce, if not a V-shaped recovery, really. Because that's what they represent. You know, this is a bullish chart with a massively bullish uptrend on it. And this is a major support that often results in V-shaped recoveries. We see it all the time. It's a classic thing to see it. You're not seeing it on many altcoins, I should mention, but why would you? Why would you? If Bitcoin's going to come down and they emphasize Bitcoin's move, we've noticed, time and time again that their supports, altcoin supports, aren't really supporting anything at the moment. Whereas Bitcoin is very different to that. It still hasn't touched these major supports. And the supports live down here at the $58,000. But the total 2 could bounce from here, so we'll have to wait and see. The Bitcoin dominance chart is about to start moving from its major supports as well, so it's more or less above every single moving average at this point on the daily. Momentum has some hidden bullish divergence. It's nothing really. There was a short signal, and probably still is a short signal. Yeah, there is a short signal on the 4 hourly here, but you know, we're also bouncing from the 200 exponential. So this is the sort of setup that you'd be looking for on the total 2 to bounce from here, but the dominance chart is already bouncing. But the short signal exists, so it's a difficult one to call on this chart. We just have to accept that the higher term time frame has a trend, which is an uptrend, and should imagine that that continues. But if the short signal does play, you're probably only going to come back down to 55, maybe down to 50. Well, it's more or less 55 anyway, isn't it? 54.86% on the dominance chart. A short signal on whatever time frame should bring you down to the support that you see on that time frame, which is between here and here. So let's have a quick look at traditional markets. A bit of Forex to begin with. The DXY continuing with its breakout, really. There's nothing more to say than that. There is a trend signal now on the 4 hourly, which is an Ichimoku cloud. So we've got the every aspect of this trend signal in play. This will be cancelled out if the conversion baseline crossed negative or the cheeky span closes back in the price. So you would expect to see the DXY hold 105.5. That is probably bounce time. If it fails that bounce and actually starts closing below there, the pump signal, well, the trend signal, will have cancelled by that point. But looking at this now, we've got golden crosses and trend signals. It's two things that you'd normally see for continuation. So the DXY should continue from here based on the 4 hourly. Daily, the daily we're above all moving averages. No pump signal yet, just a trend. And the next target up here would be to complete the breakout of the descending triangle. Should take us up to 106.35. Not bad for the old DXY there. And finally, we'll leave it with the US 500, so S&P futures market, which again is above all moving averages. So it looks good as far as I can tell. No reason to doubt the continuation of this chart going up, up, and up. We had two overheated reads over here on the money flow index on the 4 hourly. That's completely reset at this point with some hidden bullish divergence on both money flow index and RSI on the 4 hourly. So it does look like this one still wants to continue back up, probably back up to its previous local high, maybe even higher than that. There's not much going on until the end of the week, and even that is just a little bit of nonsense. It's nothing special coming through. Next week is probably going to be allowed to trade a bit better, because as far as we can see here, charts have trends and they don't state areas of reversal. So to be honest with you, unless you're looking to trade those supports on Bitcoin, total 2, and if you find an altcoin which is still above major supports, then fine. They might be appropriate to trade. And if you want to join the Patreon, we'll look at those chats tomorrow. We've got a live stream going on tomorrow. But as of this moment in time, allow the trend to continue going in the direction that it currently is, because I don't see any reason why it should just flip and turn around, other than hitting those areas on the weekly for Bitcoin, which again is another 1.5%, giving us a rough price of 61,400. And the total 2, which is offering us a support potentially at, let's move it back to the daily, at 967 billion. So it is what it is. Allow the trend to go. It shouldn't come as too much of a shock. We've predicted the downtrend throughout the summer. The summer's out, the barbecues are out, and the red candles are out as well. So there's nothing that should have taken us by shock horror. This is all part of the major plan, set in the stone from around December. We've waited patiently. We're seeing it. We're entering in gently with each major move down into supports, building those portfolios. And I think that is still the most appropriate way to deal with this setup, with this trend. We don't know exactly where it'll turn around. There's evidence that it'll turn around in a little bit lower from where we're at right now. But the momentum continues to push down. So even though the supports exist, the momentum doesn't look like it wants to slow down at all. And the DXY looks like it wants to continue up as well. So maybe this week will be a rocky week. But I will probably, generally depending on how things look at the time, and this might even be today, to be honest with you, deploy a little bit more cash into some of those massively wrecked city altcoins that we seem to be wanting to buy at these levels. I know that a lot of people will look at it and go, absolutely not, no, absolutely not, no way. That's fine. I can understand that, but I've made this video about the total 2 and my expectations of it, and just to quickly reference it and have to turn it onto a log scale and get off all these indicators. This is what we should be expecting. Scrape down and then back up again towards the end of the year. So we don't know the exact moment that it's going to turn around. We don't know the exact price that it's going to turn around. But because this fractal gives us a rough guide as to how the previous cycle behaved and how I think this cycle will also behave, you know, this is a weekly, so it's not perfect, but it's good enough to think, all right, fine, it is behaving pretty much the same as it did last time. And so my expectations is that it should end up in the same way that it did last time, just based on what we're looking at here. But that doesn't mean that we're going to turn around now or tomorrow or later. But if you've got to have areas on the chart where you're willing to deploy some capital, and the next area on the chart, as we've been saying, would be the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly for Bitcoin, around 61,500. So it's worth a shot. It's definitely worth a shot. The last time we hit this, we had a massive spring back up. This time is probably a little different, but it's an opportunity all the same. Right, I'll leave it with you there. Nothing much more to say. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.